Today we'll be reviewing the installation of the Osprey point of sale server for version 12.8.107. As you can see, I already have the installer on the system. I'm going to right click and choose to run as administrator. Depending on your system security and UAC settings, you may see a UAC prompt. In this case, I'm going to answer yes. At this point, the installer is going to go ahead and proceed. I click next. You can read the license agreement and scroll through that. Once you're done, select accept, click next, and then select install to start the installation process. One note regarding the UAC settings: depending on the settings, instead of getting a prompt like I got in my installation, it may simply flash in your taskbar, in which case you simply click on there and click yes. At this point, it's unpacking all of the installation files. Among other things that it installs a copy of LibreOffice in the event that Excel is not on the system for reporting purposes. It also installs the updaters for the various point of sale applications, which could be the back office, the actual point of sale, or if you're using the Windows-based Osprey mobile. Okay, it's going to go through and do the actual installation of all the required parts, including .NET and Java. One thing with the newer versions of Osprey Point of Sale is we no longer require a standalone installation of Progress Open Edge. A customized version of Open Edge has been embedded into this one single installer. So all you have to do is run the Osprey point of sale server installer, and it will load up everything that it needs, including Open Edge, as well as the aforementioned Java and such. Another advantage of the newer installations is that the maintenance pack is no longer a separate download. The maintenance pack is embedded into the full installer, so that's the only file you'll ever have to download. So if we release 12.8.107.004, you can just download the full installer of that and use that for any new full installs, or run that on any existing installations, and it will update the code to the 12.8.107.004 instead of having to keep track of both a full installer and a maintenance pack. And as aforementioned, it also has the current versions of Point of Sale, Osprey Mobile, and Back Office in it. So when you start up any of those clients, it will automatically see that there's an updated version, pull it down and install it. So you no longer have to touch any of the other machines. Technically, this has been the case for several versions as we've been using the Progress web client. But Osprey has written its own web client wrapper to control the entire process and make it much simpler and much more streamlined. Another plus to the new installer is that it can upgrade prior versions of both 12.8.106 and 12.8.105. This installer will upgrade either of those or perform the clean 12.8.107 full install. We do install the OpenEdge SQL ODBC drivers. Those are not required for our operations, but some of our resellers and our end users make use of those, so those are installed as well. Okay, the OpenEdge silent install is completed. It's wrapping up the registry settings, etc. Okay, as you can see, it's created several icons. Once this installation finishes, we'll go over those. Depending on your setup, some or most will not be needed. Now it's going through the configuration of the databases and the POS instance. For those of you that have been installing for a long time, this used to be a manual process. All of it is now scripted as part of the install, thus minimizing the time and effort it takes to do the install. Here we need to allow Apache. As is always, Apache is used for the clients. We've always used that. The clients send an HTTP request to download the current version. We're activating the demo license. The demo license runs for 30 days, at which point, if you haven't, you need to obtain an actual Osprey license from your reseller. And now it's going to restart all of our OpenEdge processes. Okay, it's prompting us to allow the OpenJDK platform binary access. We're going to allow that. Again, progress is written and runs on Java. Now it's going to wrap up configuring the POS app server instance. Okay, our installation is finished. I'm going to click Finish. The system may or may not prompt for a restart. Typically, you'll want to restart. I'm going to not do that as I want to show a couple things. So I'm going to click Finish. As far as our icons over here, the Sonic sender and receiver are there for legacy compatibility only. We are now using Apache Kafka for our server to Osprey host communication, so you can generally delete those. If you are going to have a host and multiple stores, you will want to leave the Kafka consumer and producer. If it is a single store, again, you can delete those. This is the Osprey emailer, which can be used for sending out receipts or generic emails through the software. If you're using that, you'd obviously want to leave it. If not, we can delete that. We have an e-commerce bridge to things such as the Octopus application, which supports Shopify, Walmart, WooCommerce, etc. If you're not doing e-commerce, you can delete that. And then this was the Osprey Managed Services feed. Originally it was for Drink and Drizzly and City Hive. If you're not using any of those, you can delete that as well. At this point, as you can see, we simply have our Office icon. I can double click on that. It's going to launch OspreyPOS back office. The default login for a new install is Unified POS and 1966. Depending on how long it's been since an update's been performed, you may be prompted to immediately change that password. In my case, I wasn't. This was released less than 2 weeks ago, so the password hasn't expired yet. One thing I do want to show before I wrap up here is the help has been changed. If you click on help, and you'll see contents F1, the help is all online through Atlassian's Confluence. It is just like the old help, the old HTML. It's laid out in sections. One difference is the release notes for each version are above it, but it's laid out in sections. So for example, if I go into items, you'll still see the department help, the sub-department help, etc. However, within a section, if you expand it, in some cases, such as item maintenance, you'll see that there's an arrow you can expand, and the reason being, let's expand this so you can see it better, is for each version, changes may or may not occur to any given form. And what this allows for is for us to have different versions of the screen and different versions of the functions on the screen for each release easily, which we could not do previously. So for example, this is the 12.8.105 item maintenance screens in the help. If I click on here, I have 12.8.107, and this, as you can see, the screen has been completely redone since 12.8.105. So we can keep all of the versions in here instead of having to have a support person maintain them themselves. As far as the help within a screen, that is the exact same. So if I go into, say, business information and click on help, again, you'll either have a help icon on the toolbar on older screens. On newer screens, it will be up in the title area. We click on it. It will still open the manual, context sensitive as it has before. So none of that has changed. The main advantage to it being online, beyond supporting the multiple versions, is that we can update it much quicker and much easier. So if we were to make a change in the software today, we could update the documentation today instead of having to wait until we can get it into RoboHelp generated and distributed with the next release. So with that, I will bid you goodbye and hope you had a great day and hope this video is helpful.